This is the Infatuasian Podcast, where I get together with a few friends and talk about Asian things and Asian people that we love. This is Curtis, and on today's episode, we're going to at least be talking about circling the globe and talking about travel. Welcome to episode number 8. This one has been one that's been on my mind for a while. We are slowly, hopefully, crawling out of the pandemic, and it's been, for most people, at least a year and a half, 2 years since we've gone anywhere exotic. And so we were just thinking about what kind of episodes to do, and this one popped to my mind. And, you know, it's not like it's super easy to hop on a plane right now, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about travel. And I am not actually a world traveler, so I had to bring on some friends to help me talk about this. And I couldn't think of two better people than my guest today. So let's start with Tony. Welcome, Tony. How's it going?
It's going well. Excited to talk about travel. I can talk about travel all day, every day.
I know. It sounds like it. Yeah, and Tony and I go way back, but he's one of my sister's oldest and dearest friends. And I remember, you know, a few decades ago when my sister would just tell me all these exciting places that Tony was going. And because Tony worked for United Airlines over a dozen years. How long did you work for United?
Close to 15 years almost.
Yeah. And took full advantage of the perks that comes with working with the airlines. And I just remember my sister saying, "Oh yeah, Tony's in South America, or Tony's in China, or Tony's Egypt." You know, all these places that Tony was just. It's kind of like, "Where's Waldo?" or "Where's Carmen Sandiego?" It was always like, "Where's Tony?" And so I thought he'd be a perfect guest for this. So welcome, Tony. Thanks for coming by.
Good to be here.
And joining us all the way from Hong Kong. So it is Friday evening here in San Francisco, and we are getting ready for dinner or bed, but we have all the way from Hong Kong, we have my friend Alice. Hi, Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here today.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
What are we at, 10 a.m. over there?
Yes, it is 10 a.m. Saturday.
So this is so amazing that we can Zoom, talk about travel to people on different continents. This is great. And Alice's similar story to Tony. Right after college, right? Pretty much right after college.
After college.
Yeah, worked for Cathay Pacific and was a flight attendant. And I would follow her on Instagram, and just same story. It'd be like, "There's Alice in Amsterdam. There's Alice in wherever Alice is." And it's just great, right? When you work for airlines, that's what you do.
Yes, it was awesome. It was a great lifestyle.
Especially when you're 20-something, right? When you're 20-something,
yes.
No mortgage, no attachments.
Yes.
Thin wallet, though, right? You don't get paid a ton when you're working for the airlines, or do you? I don't know.
No. I mean, you basically spend all the money paying back
traveling.
Traveling.
Yeah. So.
And then also, I don't know if you know this, Curtis, but with the airlines, you could trade your days away. So you could take a month off. It won't be paid, but you could still see the world.
Oh.
One of the things that I really liked was having like so many days off. It was so comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can fly a friend. Like Alice would take her mom places. You could fly friends with you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I bet you had a lot of friends back then.
So you have to register like for Cathay, so we can have 4 family members to add on, like the travel list, and then we can have 1 companion. So it was my boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was living large, just like you.
Yeah, that's the best.
So I would say he misses flying more than me, actually.
Well, you ended up marrying him, so it worked out.
Yeah.
Oh, that worked out really well.
When did you realize you had travel lust or wanderlust? When was it? Was it in college that you guys realized that you really wanted to travel the world?
For me, it was college. I think, I paid my way through college. I didn't have any money. And when you see everyone doing their spring break stuff, and you see people going to Europe and Asia, and here I am with my summer job in Riverside where it's 110 degrees, you think, wow, they're sending me a postcard, and here I am, paying for my education. So that's when I really said, when I have money or after I graduate, because remember when we graduated way back in the
Yeah.
early 80s, late 80s, it was all about college equal good money and a great job. So I kept thinking, okay, once I graduate, I'm going to travel and see the world. So I knew I had the wanderlust then.
How about you, Alice?
For me, it was back. I was in college as well, so I took my first big road trip in college. I think it was like maybe 10 days or like around 2 weeks. I can't remember now. So I worked as an assistant for an oil painting artist back in college. And one summer I just tagged along to like an art show. It was in Denver. So first we flew to Chicago, and then we drove down through Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and then to Colorado. So like it was so many things to see on the road. Like basically, like we were just stuck in the car like the whole time. But I liked it. I really enjoyed it, and like it was so many nice stuff to see. Like you can meet people along the way. I love it. So, and then I wanted to explore and go to more places. Yeah.
You gotta hear your kid in the background.
A 10-day road trip is good though. That's a good time to see the U.S. Good long enough time.
Normally you won't like really just go to that, I don't know, like Kansas
or Arkansas.
Yeah. No, I've never been there.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, and so like I think people might know that you're not born in the United States, so you got to see some areas that a lot of Americans haven't even seen.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Michigan, I really like Michigan as well.
Ah, yeah, another place I've never been. That's cool. And then from there, you were just like, after college, you were both kind of like, what should I do with my life? And then did you look for United, or did they kind of come to you? How did Cathay come to you?
I had two good friends. They were already working for Cathay back then at the time, and one of them asked me like to apply when Cathay was hiring. Like I was like literally just out of college, and like it was so tempted because I would be working and traveling with them a lot if I get the job. So it was an easy decision for me, and it didn't hurt to try, right? Yeah. So I just went for it.
How about you, Tony?
So one of my really good friends, he ended up applying to Southwest Airlines because he's an airline buff. Not so much as a travel person. He likes airplanes. He wanted to be a pilot. And he says, hey, if you work for the airlines, you can go places. I was like, we can. And then, my first job out of college, how sometimes things just don't pan out. So I had a job working as a sales rep for Gallo Wine, and here I look like I was 12 years old selling in the Tenderloin. It was the most difficult job I've ever had. It was so wine to these stores when I was 21, and they thought, what do you know about wine? I knew nothing about wine. I had to lie, make it up. I read up on it. So he said, you should work for the airlines and then figure out what you want to do afterwards. So that's how I got in. And with United at the time, all you needed, if you had a degree, you were already in, because I worked at reservations. And I just kept saying, okay, I'll be here as I look for a job. And then one trip turned to 2 trips, turned to 10 trips, turned to 5 years, turned to 20 trips. It just, after that, I said, I'm never leaving this place. I'm never going to leave.
Did you ever work on a plane, or did you ever work at an airport?
So I actually ended up going from United to a trainer. So I flew around the country training in the reservation centers and in the airport. I kind of didn't want to get stuck as a flight attendant because I didn't think I'd have as many options as working ground. And then I kept saying, I worked 4 years with this business degree. I kind of struggled. I I kind of should kind of follow what I need to do. What I thought should do with my business degree, and not so much as have fun. And then plus I got peer pressure, as we know, from family who are like, what are you doing? Why are you traveling? Why did you move back home? And now you can't even pay for your stuff. So, and I think at the time I made 16,000 the first year, I think, or something crazy.
Yeah.
It was just above minimum.
Yeah.
And then when I left 14, 15 years later, I think I made $19 or $20. When I was looking at my Social Security statement, I said, wow, I really must have loved that job for me to not make over 30,000.
Well, it's
living in San Francisco, mind you.
Yeah, because there's a steady stream of college kids who want to do that job, I guess, right? So.
Oh, yeah. Everyone on my training class was a postgraduate, and everyone had the same, let's just stay here for a little while. And all those people who said they'd stay there a little while stayed there as long as I did.
Yeah, it's just hard to make a career out of it, but for a 20-something-year-old, it's like dream come true.
It didn't get any better. It didn't get any, and then especially Alice. I mean, you're able to go back and take your mom, and that's where you're from. You could visit without, having to worry about all the buying a ticket and everything else. So it's just an amazing perk.
It was, yes. It was a great lifestyle, like very addictive. So, like even people just intend to stay for a little while. Like they just end up, like retired. Like just make it a career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If you can, I guess.
Well, we used to say United, if you made it there 5 years, you're going to already be a lifer. There's no way. If you already stayed there 5 years without leaving, there's no way you're going to quit because you're already hooked to the flight benefits. And the only reason why I left was because my office shut down, and I didn't want to move to I didn't want to move to Chicago or to LA or to Seattle or to DC. So that's the only, other than that.
You'd still be there.
So I would still be there. I'd probably be making maybe $30 an hour.
Well, here's a story to kind of plant a seed in your head. My cousin worked for the government for his 30 years, and he got to be 60 years old, or not, not old, but old enough to retire. So he retired, and now, just for fun, he works for Hawaiian Airlines, like nice. 4 days a week. He does the morning shift. He does like the 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Like he does a real quick 4-hour, 5-hour shift in the morning at Oakland International, and then he flies to Hawaii like 3 times a month. So he's in retirement. He's enjoying it. It's like he's making $20 an hour, but he's got the pension from the government job, and he's just kind of doing opposite of you guys. He worked for 30 years doing something he didn't really love, and now he's doing something he really loves, but he's not making any money. Well,
that's my goal.
Yeah.
So when United, because I kind of was let go. After September 11th, a lot of the airline satellite offices or reservation offices closed down and everything consolidated. So part of the package for me, for my severance, was that I can come back anytime throughout the life of the airlines and then bridge my seniority. Or I could do that, or I take this monetary severance package, right? So I said, I was still young. I said, do I really need that much? It's not even a lot. They give you a percentage of how many years I left with, 14, 15 years, right? Or can I come back during retirement and they bridge my seniority and I'll have flight benefits for life? I said, I'll take the flight benefits for life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Tony, do you still have the flying benefits now?
So funny that you ask. So friends, when I was working with United, who actually became flight attendants, put me on their enrolled friends. So I've had flight benefits nonstop. Oh
yeah.
And my husband still works technically for the Marriott, and he's earned enough that they call it a quarter of a century employee. So we get free rooms at Marriott.
That's key.
Wow, that's like the perfect.
I know.
Yeah.
We just need a best friend who works for a car or a cruise, and we're all set.
Oh man. So Alice, are you thinking you might go back someday, maybe? It's hard.
No,
you need the money.
I don't think so. Yeah. Especially now, like, with family, with a baby, it's just, I don't want to be leaving him for the whole week.
Yeah, that's super hard.
And Hong Kong's like San Francisco, right? It's not a cheap city.
No, it's very expensive. Yeah. Yeah, probably can afford living here with the flight attendant job and spending all the money traveling.
Yeah.
Not gonna work out.
You wouldn't be able to take advantage of it like you used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like it was really nice. My mom, my brother, and even my in-laws, they can travel.
Yeah.
So like they really make the most out of it.
That's great.
Like they would travel in, business class. Now I think they're really sad. Like they have to stuck in economy class. Like, going forward, buying full fare tickets.
Alice, were you able to take advantage of the ID90s or the ID75s?
Yes.
ID95. So Curtis, what that is that as an airline employee, you get a 90% discount on other airlines, cruises, hotels, and everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, even if you're on like Hawaiian Airlines, you can go almost anywhere, right? Just for 90%.
Yes.
All right, now the audience right now is like, oh man, where do I sign up for this? Because our audience, we have some younger members of our audience, so they may be thinking, okay, I don't have a plan for my early 20s. I might have to do this. Would you recommend it to a kid who's 21 years old? No big idea what they want to do. Would you recommend it?
If you love traveling, yeah, definitely. I think it was so much fun, and you won't be able to find this lifestyle with any other job. But however, if you want to eventually utilize your degree, your knowledge in a different field, like you will have to start early. Like what Tony said, like you can be in this airline industry for more than 5 years because it became your comfort zone, and it will be hard to get out. So I was laid off during the pandemic, to be honest, and my experience as a flight attendant for Cathay for 8 years, it was definitely an advantage when applying for customer service, jobs, but you're pretty much expected to start from the beginning. Yeah. So basically I worked as a flight attendant for 8 years, but that doesn't really transit or apply to a different job environment.
It gets you in the door, like as a conversation starter. It's a good one.
I think that with the airline job, it really is truly for someone who has the travel bug. If you have serious wanderlust, then that job is for you. There was a woman I worked with who was from Stanford. She graduated from Stanford. She's like, I don't care. She goes, I love to travel. That's all I'm going to do. She's like, I'm going to make it work. And she did. She's still she has a side hustle, because I'm friends with her on Facebook. But also one thing that people don't realize, and I'm certain, Alice, this is the same with all airlines, is that they have very strict rules. So in reservations, if you were 1 minute late, you were late. Literally 1 minute late. So if you were late 3 times when you first start, you're fired. And you're literally fired. You're not even getting, because you're told late 3 times, 1 minute, just 1 minute, and you're fired. So United was very, very, very strict on that.
Because they know they got you, right? They know that people are in this job not for the money, but for the perks, and people are lining up for that job. Yeah.
I have a funny story to share when you mentioned this. So there was a flight scheduled to fly out from San Francisco to Hong Kong, but the captain was late because the captain lived in Vegas. So he every time he has to he has to hop in the flight to come to work in San Francisco, and he forgot he had duty that night, so he couldn't make it.
Yeah. So the whole plane had to be delayed.
No. So the flight was canceled.
Oh no.
Yeah, because one person didn't show up. But the most important person of the flight.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's not good. All right. Well, let's move on to. So I have my guests here. So we're going to talk about some destinations in Asia because this is the Infatuasian podcast. Even though these two have traveled all around the world, we're going to talk about Asian destinations today, mostly. And so I have a couple challenges. You guys know how this podcast works. I have a couple challenges, and so I want to pick y'all's brains about this. We're going to talk about the first one is a challenge where I'm asking you, and let's see, maybe Tony, you can go first on this one. What big city in Asia should be on everyone's before I die travel list, or what you call a bucket list? Is there a place you never get tired of going, or you would be there right now if you could be? There's always new things to discover, even if you've been there 5 times. Is there a big city that you might recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, for me, it's Bangkok. I think I've been to Bangkok at least, being with my husband 27 years, at least 27.
Wow.
So, I mean, I know Bangkok so well that when I go to places, I ask about how their baby is, you know. So I think to me with Bangkok, it has everything I need. It's when I travel, I like to kind of focus on more of a cultural experience. So Bangkok is a giant city. It has a lot of culture. You can see monks walking along, you know, the riverbank just with just regular street kids wearing the latest fashion. To me, it's where a city where tradition meets modernity, where you can see big reclining Buddhas. There's a grand palace. So I think that to me with Bangkok, especially those who like the city, it's big, it's gritty, it has a thriving nightlife, not that type of nightlife, but it has everything that's probably undervalued compared to some of the other bigger Asian cities, in my opinion.
And you say it's a bargain, right? It's fairly cheap.
Yeah, I mean, the baht is really good. It's you know, it doesn't really move up and down. The food, everybody loves Thai food, so I like it. It's they have a good subway system. You can literally find anything that you need in Bangkok. I mean, if you don't want to buy the stuff from China or Korea, Bangkok is the next best bet.
Alice, you've been to Bangkok, right?
Yeah, I love Bangkok. I completely agree with you, Tony. And Bangkok has some of the really great local designers.
Yes,
I love going to those like night markets and Chak to Chak.
Oh, Chata Chat is the best. It's the largest one of the largest night markets in the world. It's like 20 football fields or something. You can get lost in that place.
Yeah, like I really get lost in there. Yeah.
Now, is there a language barrier at all? Do you have problems if you don't speak Thai?
No.
Mm-hmm.
You'll always find someone there who speaks English.
Great.
I think it's more when you go outside, if you go more rural, non-touristy. Right. But there's always someone because tourism is really, really big there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. I recently just learned the biggest the train station night market.
Yeah.
That one is closed for good. So
that's Rot Phi, I think they call it. The train market station. Mm-hmm. They close that, but there's 2.
I don't know. They close one, so one of them is will be closed, for, it won't be open.
Oh, it's really nice. Their night markets are amazing.
I love the night markets. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I don't know if you guys know with Bangkok, they have this emerging denim culture. It's insane. So I just so happened to be there during a time they had this denim convention, and I liked because Japanese denim is all Japanese denim is the denim to buy. You go to Okayama, you buy Japanese denim, but Thai denim is coming up in fashion, and you see the young kids wearing this super thick denim. And I said, how much does that cost? When I was converting it, I said, the people here spend money to buy that denim, like $300. And they said, fashion's fashion. That's what
you got to do it.
That's what the kids, that's what the kids do. But, I was like, wow, that's amazing.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
What would a decent, not exorbitant, but what would a decent meal cost you in Bangkok? Like a sit-down restaurant?
Sit-down restaurant. I would say $10 is probably enough already, with, appetizer, main dish, and drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the street, a couple bucks.
No, probably even less. I think the satay sticks in the night market are probably $0.25, 50 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the rule is you're going to eat at the stalls where you have the most people. So you're going to go to you're going to go to the food, it's like an outdoor food court, but they're like the stalls. And then you see this random one and all these people are in line. And then right next to it's this empty one.
You know which one to go to.
I would tell my friends, yeah, there's a reason why that one's empty. Don't go to that one. So every time we bring friends over, we tell them, understand that there's a reason that this one doesn't have people, and we're
Exactly.
20 deep waiting in line.
Yeah.
Right, Alex? I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
all Asian markets.
Just go to the one with the most locals.
Look for the locals.
Yes, I think that's all Asia markets. Every single one.
Yeah. I mean, that's San Francisco. I mean, that's
you're
anywhere, right? Oh, man. All right. Hey, how about you, Alice? You got a big city for us to recommend?
Yeah. For me, I would pick. I'll say Tokyo. So Japan in general is an amazing country to visit, and Tokyo being the capital city has so much to offer. Like the endless nightlife, they have all the up and coming restaurants and so many interesting or like weird products, things you can buy. So I personally love the vintage shops.
Yes.
Like it's like a treasure hunt
Uh-huh.
in those vintage shops.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So every time I'm in Tokyo, I would try different restaurants and go to like just a new district for adventure, and it has really never let me down. So I would say Tokyo is a must visit city in Asia.
And easy to get around because of the subway and
Well, yeah. Super easy, super convenient to get around. Yeah.
It's friendly. Everyone helps you.
Now you have to spend a little more at Tokyo, right? Like it's kind of similar to American prices, or
I think it's all right. Like like you don't really pay too much, like for a nice meal, like like for authentic sushi meal. Like I wouldn't say like it costs a lot more than what you would pay in the States, because like you don't have to pay tips.
right?
That already makes a difference. Yeah.
I think that the price range, if you go, it's the hotels that's going to cost you. Their Uber is more expensive. Cabs are not as cheap as their cabs here in the U.S.
Do you have a favorite district that you like to stay in?
For me, we always stay near Shinjuku. Just
Yeah.
like it's very convenient.
That's that's the most convenient. And then I end up taking my niece and my nephew. One graduated from college, the other graduated from high school. And I said, instead of me giving you money, I'll give you guys an experience. And I said, what do you guys want to do? I said, my suggestion is we go on a trip. So we want to go to Tokyo. And I said, yes.
Yeah.
So they planned it out, and they're both anime kids.
Oh yeah.
And then, yes. And the good thing is they love to eat the convenience store.
7-Eleven.
In 7-Eleven. So I said, that's
convenience store foods.
I said, that's good for Uncle Tony, because I didn't want you guys looking for Wagyu or, super expensive sushi.
No, but it's not slumming it. 7-Eleven in Tokyo is
yes,
good sushi.
it's killing it there.
Yeah.
It's good.
Nice. I'll share that later. That's definitely on my list. So I'll pick your brain if I ever get closer to actually going. It's really too bad that the Olympics aren't fully demonstrating how great Tokyo is, because they had to shut it down. But someday the world will open up and I'll be able to get over there. For my big city, Alice, you'll like this one. My big city I'm going to recommend is Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I love Hong Kong. Now, there is the colonist history, and it's there's definitely a dark side to the British being in Hong Kong. There's a great episode if you want to know the history of Hong Kong a little bit more. The podcast Throughline has a good episode on Hong Kong. Kind of talks about the history, and it's pretty dark. And so there's that. But I think it's created this really neat fusion of the East and the West, the ultimate East and the West fusion. And you have the double-decker buses. You have, for the time being at least, you have things like Times Square and Victoria's Peak named after companies or British monarchy. And I think that's just kind of neat. And then you have English on all the signs, right? Because, they have that left over. And it's such a unique place. It's different than China, different than Britain. It's just a different culture altogether. I've only been there. I've been there maybe 4 times, and like big cities, right? You can go and do different things every time, or go back to your favorites. You can always find new restaurants. It's like, I'm sure, Alice, you're always finding new restaurants, right? There are always new things opening up.
Yeah, there are really like so many amazing restaurants in Hong Kong.
I want to go and have Alice show me around.
Yeah. I want the local to show us around.
How long have you been living there? You've been living there 5 years now, or?
Yeah, I've been like in and out for the past 8 years, but like really kind of like moved here maybe 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if you like seafood, if you like dim sum,
Yes.
that's where you go. They're also famous. And this is for me, and I don't know if you can see in the background. I have all these aquariums, but they have a famous street for aquariums and goldfish and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, actually, and to be honest, my wife's from Hong Kong, and so her family, I think, could establish residency in Hong Kong. And if Trump had won the second term, I don't know, man. I was thinking, I was like, talking to my wife, maybe we should maybe we should go to Hong Kong. But Hong Kong's got their own problems, right? They kind of have this dark cloud looming over them in 2047, and I don't want to get political here or anything, but yeah, it's kind of uncertain times in Hong Kong the next 25 years. We'll see. But yeah, still a unique place. I think Alice can confirm this for me, but most people call themselves Hong Kongers as opposed to Chinese or British, right? Most people identify as Hong Kong, right?
The younger generations, yes.
Oh, interesting.
But there's always going to be immigration, but yeah, it's interesting times over there. What can you say about Hong Kong, Alice? I want to hear your opinion of Hong Kong.
Let's say it's different when you're just traveling here.
That's true, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard city to live in. Yeah,
I mean, like just the weather alone. Like like you said, like Daly City is just like cold, foggy. Like I kind of miss that.
Free air conditioning.
It's so hot. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our the air conditioner in our living room broke for like almost a month now. Like we don't want to go home at all. After work.
Oh, no.
Like, it's so hot.
When's the best time to travel? October is when the weather kind of gets better.
Yeah. So I would say October is nice. October, November, December, yeah. And like Chinese New Year, so it won't be like too cold in Hong Kong as well during the winter time. So I would say like visit in the winter time would be better.
Yeah.
Than summer.
July and August are rough.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
And it was raining the whole week.
Yeah, it's
too.
super hot, but always so raining and humid. It's just tough. But yeah, it's just kind of a neat place. All right, thank you though for those. Bangkok, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. You can't go wrong in any of those cities, I think, if you want an adventure or you want to see something new. Always new things to find in those cities. All right, challenge number 2 is where is somewhere in... Now, I think this is an interesting question for you guys to share with me. Challenge number 2 is where is somewhere in Asia that is a little bit off the beaten path? Like maybe it's a little bit more of a bargain, a little less crowded, or maybe just not as popular as other destinations. So, Alice, you got a off the beaten path pick for us for Asia?
Yeah, for me it's Da Nang in Vietnam. So it reminds me so much of Thailand, but it's less developed.
Okay.
Like I would say it looked like I don't know, Bangkok, but 20 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, the food and massage were great, and it's so much cheaper than Thailand. Like you could get a draft beer in a restaurant, but I mean, for happy hour, but it was like 25 cents per glass.
Oh man,
I don't know where else I could find that. Yeah.
That's true.
For me, that's definitely a bargain. So Da Nang has one of the prettiest beaches that I've ever been to. So overall, it's a great vacation spot, and I really really liked it. It's one of the places that I want to go back soon as the world opens up.
And the good thing is Da Nang is fairly centrally located. So I think it's a few hours out either direction, and you're going to hit one of the major areas in Vietnam. I know one of the places that we went to from Da Nang is Hoi An.
I love Hoi An.
Yeah, it's this amazing town. It's like time stood still there. So it was really interesting town.
Hoi An has one of the world's best Vietnamese sandwich.
Oh really?
Spot.
Oh, Really?
Yeah,
Oh man.
the
Nice.
best in the world. Yes.
Huh. So,
And like it was like $1 for a sandwich
oh
there.
man.
It's probably expensive at that place because it's a tourist town.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you can get a beer for 25 cents. So yeah,
exactly.
Oh
it's
man.
pretty expensive.
That sounds so good right now. A beer and a sandwich for $1.25.
$1.25.
Oh man. Yeah, even San Francisco, our Vietnamese sandwiches are like $5, $6, $7 now. What's going
Exactly.
on? What's going on?
Yeah. Gone are the days of the $3 sandwich.
The $3
$2
sandwich. Yeah. How about you, Tony? You got an off the beaten path pick for us?
Sure. I guess for me, one of the off-beaten path destinations would be Borobudur, Indonesia.
Ooh.
So it's the largest Buddhist temple in the world. It has over 500 Buddhas. It's an amazing sight to see.
Huh.
I think they call them stupas, where they put the Buddha. It's like it's encased in
like a shrine, yeah, or
in a shrine, yeah. And I believe they either put the ashes of monks there.
Huh.
So forgive me if I'm wrong. I just remember that there was hundreds of these Buddhas all over, and it's elevated up. So if you like or you visited Angkor Wat or Bagan in Myanmar, it's kind of on the same scale. It's just one of those gigantic archaeological sites that you can't miss if you go in Asia. Thought it was really, really amazing. And it's interesting because, in Indonesia, everyone goes to Bali. I mean, some people go to Komodo to see the dragons. You may want to do Borneo if you really want to be do the roughing it. But nobody that I know went to Borobudur and so I thought, I want to go there. And the beauty is I went to all these places before Instagram, before they were, so I remember saying, hey, I've been there. And now, people Instagram everything there. So
yeah. No, that's interesting because Indonesia is not really known for Buddhism, but there must be a deep history there. So
yeah, you're right. You're right.
I look that up. Yeah, definitely never. Well, I don't even know if I've heard of it. So yeah, Indonesia is definitely a country that's not on a lot of people's radar, but probably should be. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember you fly to the airline code is JOG, so they call it Jogjakarta. It's spelled Yogyakarta. And I remember we went to this their night market, and they had so many. And I'm not judging because I know this is indicative of many of the Asian countries. They sold every animal known to man. I thought, wow, you could buy a Komodo dragon here. It's crazy.
Wow.
And then they sold as pets or toys these chicks that were dyed different colors. So you could buy a purple chick and a pink chick. And I thought somebody is raising chicks to dye them. It's insane. And then as much as we wanted to buy them, because I think they were like 10 cents or
right.
25. I remember they were like, you could have bought a couple for $1. And we really wanted to buy them, but we said, what would we do with them? That's
yeah.
You can't just play with them and take pictures and then give them back.
Now, do you guys like the fact that when you travel in Asia, you can kind of blend in? Like, Tony, when you're in Indonesia, people don't look at you sideways at all, right?
No. If I'm in Indonesia, I'm Indonesian. If I'm in the Philippines, I'm Filipino. If I'm in Malaysia, I'm Malaysian. Right. Yeah, Japan, no. China, not so much. Hong Kong, they know I'm Filipino because of, they have a big Filipino population
right.
in the service industry and everything else. So,
now I remember the first time, like I had never traveled to Asia until I was in my 20s, and in San Francisco there's a lot of Asians, but when you actually go to Hong Kong and you just feel like, man, I'm just totally blending in. It's kind of a neat feeling for me as an ABC kid, where you go and, you always kind of are a little self-conscious of your nationality or race, here in America. But when you go to,
I agree.
When you go to Asia, you just totally blend in. You walk around with impunity. I mean, not impunity.
Yes.
But it's kind of neat. It's a neat feeling. So I always like that.
Well, but you know how we went to Lowell. So Lowell was 90% Asian.
Yeah.
So my junior high school was mostly Asian. I went to Denman. So, for me to be out when I went to college in Riverside, it was a pretty big culture shock to see not a lot of Asians. And then when I started to travel through Asia, I felt very comfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't feel intimidated in any of the Asian countries I traveled.
Yeah, even though you don't
Being
speak
Asian.
the language, it's like
Even though I don't speak the language.
it's kind of cool. It's definitely it's an eye opener. So if you're Asian American and you've never been overseas, it's definitely something that kind of
don't be intimidated.
kind of wakes you up. For me, again, I'm not a world traveler, so I don't have a ton of locations to choose from. But I'm gonna say that when most people think of China, I think their typical locations are Shanghai, Beijing, and then I guess Hong Kong. But I'm going to recommend Nanjing, which I think is a neat little town. You kind of get there by going through Shanghai. A neat little town. It's what is it? Still 10 million people, but small for China, right? But it is one of the 4 ancient capitals of China, so it has hundreds and hundreds of years of history, which I think you guys all both appreciate that. America is such a young country. When you go to places where they have 4,000 years of history, it's pretty neat. And so Nanjing has they have a 600-year-old wall. Not quite as big as the Great Wall of China, but they have a wall there too. They have a Ming Dynasty tomb, and then they also have the history of being the nationalist headquarters. So if you know the history of China, you know that there was the communists, and then there was the nationalists. So Chiang Kai-shek set up shop in Nanjing. So he was there for like two decades. He was there for 20 years, and so now it's a museum where I think the Chinese government says, "Look at these guys, we kicked them out." But there's also a mausoleum to Dr. Sun Yat-sen, which even communists and nationalists consider the father of the country. And it's a really neat place. There's the 1,000 steps that you can climb and the blue roofs. It's really kind of a neat place. And, of course, there's the history of when Japan invaded and they had that terrible moment in Nanjing as well. But great food, great culture. And if you take the train from Shanghai, you can visit some other cities along the way. There's Suzhou and there's Wuxi. There's a couple towns along the way that you can visit. Again, all these are over 5 million people probably. But Nanjing, go check out if you're in China or if you've been to Beijing or Shanghai. Take the train from Shanghai into Nanjing and go visit maybe a town that a lot of people might not be on their radar. I don't know. What do you think, Alice? Do you think that a lot of people have been to Nanjing, or am I just dreaming?
Not really. It never make it to the top of my list too, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You been there, Tony?
Yeah. Now I'm interested. No, I've never been. How far is it from Shanghai?
Oh, it's a 2-hour train ride. Not far.
Well, I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, I know it's not that long because I had to stand. The train was so crowded, I had to stand up for the 2 hours. So it wasn't overnight or anything. It was it's pretty doable. But definitely a neat little. It has a little bit of history and a little bit of modernity as well. So yeah.
So did you choose that place? How did you decide on that when you were there?
Yeah. So in college, I had a professor who did research on Lake Tahoe, and I was studying ecology, and he said, "Oh, I have a kind of a partner or just a friend who does research on Taihu in Wuxi. It's a big lake in China, and so he's buddies with this professor. He goes, "Hey, you should go over to China to visit that lake and see, you can be kind of like their guest in a way." And so they weren't paying for anything, but I said I was going to be in China anyway. And so I was over there, and then he wrote me a letter of introduction to this professor at the, I don't know the name of it was like the Nanjing Institute of, limnology, which is a study of fresh water. And so I stayed there as a guest student in a way for about 3 weeks. So I was there,
nice.
And I was helping them translate what he could speak English, so he would write his articles in English, and I would help translate his English into better English. So I knew what he was trying to say. I was like, I know what you're trying to say. So I would turn his articles into better English so he can get published in American journals. And so I was basically working for food. And funny story. So back then I had to stay in the foreign student building, and so they kept the foreigners away from the locals. So I was in the foreign student building, and I don't speak Mandarin. And so when we go into town, I would go in with Africans and Bulgarians and people from all over the world, and we'd go, and I'd say, "Oh, I like this T-shirt," and they're like, "Oh yeah, you have to talk them down in price. You have to bargain, right?" But I don't speak Mandarin, so I would have like an African guy dark skin, full on African guy speaking Mandarin on my behalf, right? And I have the Chinese face, but the merchants would look at us and like, why is the African dude speaking and the Chinese dude just nodding his head on the left? So, yes, it was kind of an interesting experience, but it was, one of those, if you can get into China somehow, if you can get a connection, it's always a better experience when you stay for a little bit longer. Yeah. I don't know how I worked my way into that. It's kind of one of those things that just happened. I just told the professor, hey, I'm going to be in Asia, because I was teaching English in Macau. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be in Asia for a little while. And then he's like, oh yeah, you want to go visit, Nanjing? I'm like, all right. So yeah.
That's a very cool story.
It is,
That is a cool story. That's a really cool. That is a very cool
one of
story.
the coolest times of my life. It's what is it, 30 years ago now?
But still, 3 weeks. That's something you tell your kids when you're growing up.
Yeah, I think you were saying this too, Tony. That when you travel, you like to stay, at least 3 weeks.
3 weeks,
if you can, right?
Yeah.
Because any shorter than that, you're a tourist.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't immerse yourself into a culture or an environment, I don't think, because you're still decompressing. I mean, how people do a week in a country, you travel to Asia for a week is weird to me.
The jet lag,
Yeah, so
because you will be spending like 2 days on a plane.
On a plane, exactly.
Yeah. And it just hits you too. The sights and the sounds, the humidity, the language, all that stuff takes a minute to get used to it, to get comfortable too. All right. Well, guess what, guys? That's the end of episode number 1. Well, episode 8, part 1. We're going to talk some more, of course, but thanks for sharing your locations. I think this is fun. I just like talking about this kind of stuff. But we'll be back. We'll be back with part 2. So thank you all for listening out there. Please let us know your thoughts. If you have, if you are, now we were just talking earlier before on this podcast that some of y'all live in Hong Kong or Indonesia or Thailand. If you are in one of these countries, please write to us. Let us know if you agree with our picks or add to our locations that we mentioned. You can write to us at infatuationpodcast@gmail.com. 24 hours a day. We cross time zones. It doesn't matter what time. Email us anytime. You can follow us on Instagram at The Infatuation Podcast. And I'll put all these details in the show notes, but there's more episodes coming soon. The second part of this interview, as well as we're doing the one on Shang-Chi coming up. And so we're gonna have more episodes for you coming soon. So please check wherever you get your podcast. But until then, on behalf of Tony, Alice, and myself, we wish you, or we hope that you are all happy, healthy, and safe. Take care out there, everyone, and talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.